California Fair Plan, insurance costs, electrical panel solutions. All of that is the topic of our conversation today. My name is Roxanne Govari with Pemberley Realty here in San Diego, California, along with my partner Santiago Guerin. And we are very grateful to have Ryan, Juliano, and Joshua from Steel Insurance Company today with us to talk everything about insurance and the challenges we're facing today in our industry. So thank you so much, Ryan and Joshua, for joining us today. And let's get started with who you are, what you do, and how you help customers.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Josh. I am the Director of New Business at the Juliano team at Steel Insurance Agency. We are a home auto brokerage based in California. We primarily work in Southern California. Work closely with realtors like yourself, helping buyers secure insurance during close of escrow.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so what are the challenges that you guys are seeing out there now with insurance?
Yeah, a big challenge that we have seen is obviously rates. Everybody likes to talk about rates. Um, Insurance costs have gone up over the last 4 to 5 years. We've got a little information on why that is, but everything's getting more expensive. Options are pretty limited, but although, like we'll talk about here in a sec, they are starting to come back. Um, One of the caveats to these carriers coming back to market is they're being a lot stricter on their guidelines, their eligibility. They're kind of tightening up some underwriting concerns. It's just making it a little bit more challenging and time consuming to actually get to the finish line on some of these.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So what about California Fair Plan? What is California Fair Plan? When do you use Fair Plan? Why do you use California Fair Plan? If you can talk to those.
Great question. It's definitely a hot button issue, especially now. They released recently that they're going to do a roughly 30% rate increase come October 15th. So already high prices getting higher in that aspect. Um, a brief recap of what the FAIR Plan is. It's a very limited fire policy. It covers you for fire, wind, hail, vandalism, malicious mischief. There's a few other ancillary coverages on there. But you have to buy a secondary policy, typically called a difference in conditions or a wraparound. I'm sure you guys have run into that in the past, the CFP DIC combo to make sure you're properly insured. Uh, the FAIR Plan started as an idea to be the insurer of last resort.
Mm-hmm.
And over the last 4 to 5 years, they have tripled the amount of business they took on. And for a while there, they're actually the fastest growing insurance carrier in the state of California. So not really what they were designed to be. Is rebuild costs and everything went up. Over the last 10 years, California had some of the largest losses in the state's history, coupled
Mm-hmm.
with increased rebuild costs. All of these carriers were looking at the market and saying, hey, California is not profitable for us. So you see the State Farms, the Farmers, the Allstates, a lot of these big box carriers, there's a max exodus. They leave
Yeah.
the state of California. The FAIR Plan for the time being filled in the gap. And so as they've taken on a ton of business, they're now trying to return to the insurer of last resort and force people off back into the standard markets as carriers start coming back.
So is California Fair Plan an actual state-owned agency, or is it a private company?
A good question. It is a private insurance company. It is, everybody gets it confused. It is not owned by the state of California or run by the state of California. It is a private insurance company. They basically have a rule that they are to accept basically every property in the state. Um, their losses are shared uh, throughout every major admitted insurance company in the state of California. So while it's kind of state orchestrated, it's not a state backed company. It's its own private company, just like any other insurance carrier.
So what gives them this how is it that other insurance companies are allowed to basically leave California, not insure, but California Fair Plan remains and is an option for homeowners?
Well, so there's some pressure from the state that allows them to, like I said, they're the insurer of last resort, so they're supposed to be, and they're marketed as the last stop,
Mm,
or I guess last line of defense for California homeowners. So when there is no other option, there's always going to be the fair plan option. However, that is baked into the rating and what
mm,
they're going to charge. So a lot of these carriers didn't get the rate increases that they were asking for, and that's why they're not writing new business in California. They're saying we can't charge enough to cover our share of the losses if there was ever to be a major loss or a major fire. So the fair plan has a few advantages. Is it did have those ratings where they thought that they're not designed to be completely profitable, um, but they already had those rates, and B, they have the backup plan of being able to assess all the other major insurance carriers in the event of a major loss where they weren't able to cover the losses.
got it.
I see.
Got it.
I see.
Got it. So let's talk about electrical panels. We're all getting older as we go along, including our electrical panels.
Yeah. So, like I was saying, there are a few carriers coming back to market. We're seeing, both on the what they call admitted lines, or like the standard market, the companies that you're probably aware of or heard of in the past, and then as well as what they call non-admitted or surplus lines carriers. They're starting to come back to market, but as I was saying, uh, they are very strict about their underwriting guidelines. One of the main ones being the electrical panel. Uh, the main flags there are Challenger panels, Zinsco panels, Federal, Pacific, or any kind of knob and tube wiring. Basically, any home pre 1990 that has not had a panel upgrade, it cuts away about 85 to 90% of the carriers that would take you.
Mm,
If all else was the same, if you had an updated panel, you'd have far more access to those carriers. Um, we have seen, started to see is, if there's a 300 to 400% difference between a carrier that's going to accept the panel and one that's not going to. I mean, we've seen sellers offer seller credits to get it updated immediately after the close of escrow. Um, I think it's maybe not the biggest part of the real estate transaction now, but I can definitely see a world in the next few years where it's almost a requirement to sell the home. Or if there's not a way to get it insured and a client's going to get a mortgage on the property, it's going to become a requirement. It seems like at least that's where we're headed.
so you're basically saying every home that has a electrical panel that's older than 1990 would have to have that
It's
electrical
not
panel updated.
it's not necessarily every home, but that's where we see the most common ones. The big one being the Challenger panel. It's a fire risk for most carriers. It's a recalled panel. There's a lot of history of electrical fire, shortage, circuit breaking, stuff like that the insurance companies do not want to have to pay for a burn down in the middle of a city just because of an electrical fire. So no, it's not every home before 1990, but I would say a big chunk of them have that Challenger or Federal Pacific or Zinsco panel.
Mm. What about condos?
Condos, it is less restrictive. I do run into the panel issue. Me and Ryan, we definitely seen it come up on condos. Um, I would say it's less of an issue there. I know that those are typically some of the last ones to actually be replaced.
Mm.
Because it's a little bit more difficult just dealing with the HOA. Any homeowner can just say, hey, let's pull permits, let's spend the money, let's get it switched out. But there's always a little bit more red tape to go through when you're doing it for a whole condo association.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So you also mentioned listing costs when you're obtaining insurance. What are you referring to?
Listing costs, I think we were more so talking about, getting a jump start on the search for insurance. Like even when you're getting ready to bring a property to lists, let's make sure that if it doesn't have that, let's at least note when these updates were made to the home. If there was, what type of electrical panel, let's check what the eligibility for the home is going to be on the side of the insurance right away from the start.
Mm.
You know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, as you guys know, is probably one of the last things you thought of in a real estate transaction. You know,
It
everything.
actually wasn't even, insurance was not even a contingency of the sale,
Yeah,
but now it
exactly.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I say early and often is the idea. Let's look at options as soon as you get a market, or as soon as you get a property coming to the market. Let's see what it's going to cost. You know, you're going to pre-qualify your buyers just with a simple reaching out to, an insurance broker like us that's going to be able to provide you an outlook of what it's going to be, not only for the year to come, but for the next 4, 5, 6 years, what the insurance costs are going to look like and how that's going to play into, you know, the appetite of the home, if
The
you will.
overall cost of home ownership.
Correct.
And
I
how
think
about zone zero?
Roxana, if I may, I'm sorry to
Yes,
jump
right.
in real quick.
Yeah, please.
Josh made a couple of great points with electrical panels, and one thing that he didn't bring up yet, and I cut out for a quick second, but in addition, we're also looking at water shutoff valves becoming a big issue,
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
roof aging, age of roof. So when a real estate agent is in the field and they're looking at a house and they're assessing, especially in San Diego, you have some of the areas are a bit older, right? And the houses are in the 70s or 60s or even earlier than that.
Mm.
Just having that honest conversation with the client of what they're in for, with potential upgrades. A lot of these companies might take business, but might also require within a certain period of time for them to replace the roof or to have a water shutoff valve. And those are additional costs that I think are really important to know,
Mhm.
for the client and also for our side of it, because it could drive that cost way up overall. And, they could be into having a repipe of a house, which could
Mm.
be tens of thousands of dollars. Electrical panel, like Josh said, could be, a couple $5,000 or more. And of course, the roof situation
Yeah.
is huge to have that looked at, maybe from a home inspector or something along those lines. So I'll leave it there. I'll let Josh kind of take it from there, but I wanted to make sure I interjected that.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Those two are very, very important. You're right.
Yeah, that's the other thing that we see that was part of what we were going to talk about is exactly that. Roofs, huge thing. If it's a comp shingle roof, insurance carriers don't really want it to be older than 20 years old. They're going to ask for a full replacement. If it's not that first year when a new buyer buys the property, it's going to be pretty soon after. A concrete and clay tile, you can get a little bit more extended life out of them. Obviously, in the eyes of insurance, you could get maybe 25 to 50 years. But we've seen roof concerns come up in inspections quite a bit. It's the same thing as everything is changing. These carriers are trying to tighten their guidelines, trying to stay profitable as all these, inflationary costs rise up for them and for the consumer. They have to be a little bit more nitpicky. That's part of the trade-off of them coming back to the market.
So what about zone zero? What do you see out there with zone zero, and how is that going to affect getting insurance?
So zone zero, I know it's a big topic of conversation with NHG right now, but I would say insurance carriers are going to be a little bit later to the game on that one.
Good.
Yeah, right now it's more so of a discount. There's not a whole lot of eligibility unless you're like in a moderate to higher fire zone and you have a really picky carrier. They're going to ask for pictures showing defensible space. They don't care as much about the zone zero as they do just full, trimming of plants, trees, and shrubs. They don't want any kind of overgrowth, no trees overhanging the roof. If there is any kind of vinage or shrubbery that's directly up against it in that zone zero, they'll probably at least at a minimum want it trimmed back, if not taken out completely. That's obviously looking forward into the future. Right now, it's still just mostly a discount with most carriers if you do have clearance in that zone zero.
Mm-hmm.
And for those that don't know what zone zero is, Roxanne, can you explain, or Joshua, what is it, like a designated area that for?
So my understanding of zone zero is within 3 to 5 feet from the house, you have to make sure that there are no shrubberies that are basically touching the house, and also the fences that are against the house. They cannot be wood fences.
Yeah,
So
non-combustible material.
Non-combustible material. There you go. And I was actually surprised to see that, but I thought vinyl fences would have been okay, but apparently vinyl fences are not considered non-combustible.
Yeah, I believe I could be wrong about this, but I believe there's a certain type of vinyl that counts for the non-combustible. At least what we see on our end, they'll give a discount for, I forget the exact wording, but there's a certain type of vinyl that does count.
Oh, so you could
Yeah.
be using vinyl fencing.
Yeah, but I think it's like a specific non-combustible vinyl. I don't know what it's actually called. We did a
Got
little
it.
research on that.
Well, at least it's good to know that there is such an option. So, you have that as something to be replaced, to use as a replacement, even though I'm just counting in my head with the fences. That could be a lot of fences that need to be replaced to, comply.
Yeah, and going from wood to stone or masonry, it's not always going to be very cheap to do either.
Exactly. Like I've actually used. There was one property, and I've tried for years to try to be like, okay, can I replace the wood and put metal fencing? And it's almost 10 times more expensive to go with metal rather than with wood. So it's going to be challenging having to make those modifications to every home out there.
Yeah. And that kind of just goes with the theme that we've been saying is, there's very rarely do we write a policy for, a new purchase, and there's not some sort of maintenance or inspection concerns that come up that the buyer is going to have to deal with in that first 2 to 3 months. It's not in every how would I say, like, it doesn't happen all the time, but it's way more prevalent even than just a year or two ago.
Mm-hmm.
You can definitely tell that they're tightening up on their inspections, making sure that everything is compliant to what their underwriting guidelines say. And it does come with oh, go ahead.
Can we talk about loss runs a little bit? I can't even remember. Ryan may remember what these reports were called. But essentially, we used to be able to call the insurance agent and say, get this report so that we can see whether or not there has been insurance claims on the property. And what are they called now? Are you guys doing that, or has insurance become such a difficult item to obtain that just getting it is enough? We don't actually look into insurance claims in the past, or maybe people understand that, hey, you're better off paying for this out of pocket rather than file an insurance claim.
Yeah, so it's a great question. I think there's two parts to it. For both of them, yes, the insurance companies very much do still care about claims. They pull what they call a clue report to check not only your claim history for homes that you've lived in the past 5 years, but the subject property's claim history in the last 5 years. Different carriers have different guidelines on if they're going to charge against both of those, one or the other. So in terms of eligibility, having a claim on the property or having a buyer with a claim on a previous property definitely will impact eligibility. And if it's within 3 years, it's still going to impact pricing too. So they will get a surcharge with just about every carrier. Now, if you're on the homeowner side of things and you're dealing with an active claim, as insurance costs have gone up, a common tactic that we see to help people save money year to year is raising deductibles. So part of that comes with, the smaller claims, especially water claims. A lot of times it is better for you to take care of it out of pocket, like the $5,000, $10,000, $12,000 claims that you used to claim on the insurance because you had that $1,000 deductible.
Yeah.
Doesn't make nearly as much sense when you have a $5,000 deductible.
Yeah.
And especially with how strict all the guidelines are, you risk being dropped by your current carrier and having to reshop and, a different, much more difficult market than say when you got the policy for the first time 5 or 6 years ago. So there's a lot of hidden costs that come with making a claim after the fact. So
Yeah.
we always try and instruct our homeowners, do some math for them, try to get some projections on what this is gonna cost them now, obviously, while they have to mitigate the issue, but what is it gonna cost in the future as well? And what is it gonna do to, your insurance options going forward?
Right, exactly. And to your ongoing cost of obtaining insurance. So be more careful on what you try to claim to your insurance carrier rather than paying out of pocket yourself.
Yeah. Two claims for an insurance carrier is a red flag. Like they if they're only collecting $2,000 to $3,000 a year, they've paid out $30,000 twice 2 years in a row now.
Yeah.
They don't see that as a very profitable risk. They now have to keep that policy for 20 to 30 years before they start to turn the corner on the profit.
Exactly. Okay, well, thank you very much for being here. Thank you for the education that you have provided. Audience, if you are watching this, please go ahead and give us a 2 thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. That's how we get to bring these amazing speakers. And if you guys want to reach out to Josh and Ryan, the insurance company is called Steel Insurance Agency, and you can reach out to them on their phone number. There's the phone number for you to reach out. There's also an email address that you can use to reach out to them and ask them questions or ask for quotes. This is their website. You can also reach out to them via their website. And if you are out there and trying to reach out to us, if you have any questions about real estate, we are happy to help as well. There is my phone number. And if you're trying to reach out to Santiago, this is his phone number. You can also visit us on our website. There is our website. And we love to get a follow from you on Instagram or on Facebook. And of course, just as always, if you're watching us on YouTube, Santi, what do you want them to do?
Yeah, like and subscribe, like you said, so we can have more videos with amazing guests talking about new topics every time. So, like and subscribe.
That's it. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you for joining us. And Joshua and Ryan, as always, we appreciate all that you do for us and for our clients. And thank you for the information you provided. And we will see you guys later.
Awesome.
Thanks for having us.
Guys. Yeah.